and welcome to this webinar of safety of equipment and separation. My name is Alfred Berglund, and I will be your moderator, host, and spokesperson today. Let's begin with the history, brief history. So, Thurne, formerly known as Thurne Technique, and our legal name Thurne Technique AB, was founded in 1962 by a man named Gösta Thurne. So it's his last name we're using. Started as a sales agency for European manufacturers, and in the 70s, Thurne expanded its portfolio. It started to grow more and more to the industries of the pulp and paper, which is very big here in Sweden. We also do plastics, and we do cables and rubber. But we're still only active in Sweden during the 70s. A new vision from a new board member, Jan Eriksson, who actually bought the company later when Gösta Thurne retired. He had a new vision for the company. He wanted to bring out to the big European market. He wanted to expand Thurne as a company to more than just Sweden. So in the end, what he did was that he opened new offices in new countries. So we have one in Denmark, for example. We also have some in Finland and are very active in the Nordic states. We also opened an office in Riga to represent the Baltic regions, which we are active today. And if you look at Thurne today, what have happened? Where are we today? Thurne joins a Swedish trading group named Adtech. Adtech is a branch from Bergman Beving, which hopefully some of you will recognize. So they are huge. They are really, really big. And they bring all of their knowledge, all of their solutions, all of their help to Thurne to help us further expand into other countries. So after we opened our new office in Poland, we do have a total of a few offices. We have in Stockholm, Copenhagen, Helsinki in Finland, Riga in Latvia, and Poznan in Poland. And we're also active in more than the countries we are having offices in. So it expands more than just the offices. So we have in Iceland, for example, we have in Estonia and such, and it keeps on growing. Today we are 29 people working at the company, and we have 25 partners from 10 different countries. So we have a wide range of portfolios, and this is just a few of our partners that hopefully you might recognize, like Sweco, DEC, Mersen. And if you look in the middle, we have Continental Disc, which we will talk about later, and Rodius as well. And our revenue is about 100 million, so it's not that big of a company, but we are wide and we sell worldwide almost. Something that could be fun to know: all the companies have different values, different responsibilities they feel towards others and such. So in this company, we feel really strong. We feel really strong about leaving the world a better place. So this is why we have, from our former CEO and from our board, we have some events. We do some projects to show that we just don't speak. We actually do something as well, even though we not mention it that much. So we do have, for example, the Hunger Project, which sits in our Swedish office. We share our office together. They do projects in epicenters they built in Africa, for example, which is really nice people. We have also our former CEO have funded the Way Out company, and they do amazing technology for water cleaning, where there's hard to get clean water. They have this very amazing and high-tech solution that it brings out. Also, our former CEO had a not for sale ale he created. And on our website, you can actually go and look for the article and see the interview together with our CEO on how he got the idea, where it started, what's the history behind it. And it's actually a pretty fun history where he was in China, if you want to look at that later. But enough about that. Let's start with the portfolio. Let's start with the products I work with every day. This is the leaflet I work with almost every day. So this is my portfolio, and its components, we have chosen to call it. It used to be a side business for Thurne, but this has grown and grown and got more and more expanded and interested, and also good products that the customer is happy with. So now we have the opportunity to work full time on just components because they're so good. If you open up this portfolio, you will see, for example, rupture discs in the top left and droplet separators in the middle right. Those are the ones we're going to talk about. But there's a lot of different products in this. There are more products than just showing on these two pictures. So we do have glass line piping, we have random packings, we have different filters, filter cartridges, just as a component leaflet. So there's a lot to choose from. But the one we're going to talk about today is rupture discs in metal and the droplet separators. Also something how Thurne works, or how we work at Thurne, and since I'm a product sales manager. I usually have a project with the customer, or the customer comes to us, or the supplier comes to us, and have some questions, have some problems that needs to be fixed. Just something that will need expertise in different areas. And then we are perfect for that because we are the experts in these areas. So we sit down with either the supplier or the customer. We work out the identification of the problem. Then we can find the definition and criteria of what we want to achieve. What is the goal here? What is the purpose? And after that, I will work together with the supplier to find a solution. And in my experience, this solution usually needs a revision from the customer. And then it's ready to be shipped to use. And also we get feedback later on. If it was a good solution, or it needs to be changed, or if we need to copy and paste this on some other parts of the plants. So moving on to our first supplier. We're going to talk about CDC and the Continental Disc Corporation. They are funded in 1965, and it's an American company. They're located at Kansas City and Missouri, even though they have plants all over the US. Their headquarters is in Kansas City. I will also talk about one of their product groups called HPX, and it's actually a really good product. We have done a lot of great things with this product, and if you are new to the HPX family, you will notice that there's no such thing as efficient and as hard to meet the resistance and the requirements on the market today. So I will get into case studies we have done with this, what Thurne has achieved. We also talk about how CDC, what they have brought to the table for the customer. Not just a cheap price tag for a good disc, but also some things that will show the knowledge and the technology and the service. So let's begin. This HPX family group have a very wide variety of discs. They have small and big, they have sanitary, they have non-sanitary, and they can work between 90 to 95% of the ratings. They have double disc designs, they have single disc designs, they have different seats, everything you can imagine. And for a greater reliability, this has really been the new standard in the market for the past years. So if you're non-familiar with the HPX, there is usually a process I go with the customer. So what HPX can do for the plant and also the purpose of it, why was it developed, and so on. And something I usually do when I visit the customer, I usually would like to go into the storage room first thing actually, or at least get a list of what they're using today. So I can make up some sort of picture of how it works, the different technology they uses, and what we can do for the customer, basically. Usually I would see a wide variety of different disks, different holders, different technologies, mixing, different pressures. So with this, I can find a solution. I can find cost efficiencies. I can find standardization. I have a few tools to use, and together with CDC, we actually find out with new tools for different positions. So if we find something that's really odd, which I will show in a case study later, we will have a specific solution just for this position as well. So not just standardization with cost savings and improving the safety, but also very specific cases where we can make a specific design, a special design just for this position to really get the high safety and a good value for the product. So let's move on to some of the case studies. So the benefits of what this process will do is usually end up in a better solution or with a higher volume of disks that will drive down the price and utilizing new technology. And this is a good way of showing the different types of technologies that can be implemented, and also customized technology can be implemented. All of this just to make the safety better, just to make the cost savings better, and also save lives. So this was for one of our customers. We developed a special disk where they did have a hard time fitting it on the connector, the ML Connect, which was sitting on the tank for the batches. And in 9 out of 10 cases where the disks rupture too early, it's usually how it's mounted. So if we could find a good way of mounting this disk, it would be much easier for the customer to install the disk. It will be a good seal, a good fit. It will work its way longer and longer, since this type of disk will work around 3 million times before bursting. So you can do 3 million cycles with this disk, and it will still keep 95% of the operating ratio. So on tomorrow's session, CDC will tell you more about this, how we can achieve 3 million. We can even achieve more. We can achieve 5 million on some disks. But when it comes to the cycles, CDC really is the best on the market, and especially with the HPX family group, it is the new standard to use on the market. So when we do this, we remove the tag. So you can see with the little plate where it says flow, we completely remove that. And so they just have the disc with the gasket around it. And you are allowed to do this legally, but you need to have some sort of wire to put really close to the disc, so you won't get any fines with the tag, so to say. So even if the tag is close by, you don't need it to be connected to the disc. You can have a separate wire for it, just if it's close enough. They will say it's okay. So they can just plop in this disc. They will put a spool piece, which is short pipe, so to say, acts as a holder for the disc. They will tie it down, bolt it down, screw it down, and then they will connect their relief vessel or relief pipe to whatever they see fit. So in conclusion, we developed a unique disk which met the criteria of the customer they had. They wanted to improve and last for 3 million cycles. They also wanted to have an ease of installation, which is also a criteria which APX is great for. And in the end, it was about money as well. They saved a huge amount of money. Several batches was not ruined. It was fast for them to replace a disk if something broke down. And the customer was actually very happy with this solution. We look at another one. This is more of a unique one. This is also a sanitary disk, very similar to the old one. But we did have some unique cracks in the disks. Actually, no one believed me when I told CDC that, yes, I have this customer, they have this problem, this is the criteria, they need to fix it. What are the solutions we can provide? And we choose to call it micro cracks because this is the first time ever. It's so unique. There's no other in the world, as far as CDC and other knows, in this industry. But there are small cracks. You can't see it with the open eye, but if you look and hold it and look through a light and you poke it, you will be able to hear it, and you will be able to see small cracks. And this happens with CDC disks, this happened with our competitors' disks, so it's an industry-wide. They have chosen different manufacturers, try to nail it down to find something better. And this is an ongoing investigation, actually, on how we can make a disk that won't crack with such a small amounts that it's leaking, more or less. So you want it to be sealed and you want it to be fully open. You don't want it to have small cracks to leak, because that's not the best solution for a disk either. Then you can have a valve or something else. And since this is sanitary, it could be really dangerous for the end user if it's not sanitary. So if you have something similar with small cracks, you noticed it will take really hard time getting a proper vacuum seal, for example, in your batches, or you have small leakage all the time, even though you change disks and you really feel like you have a good fit. Make sure to contact me. This is an ongoing investigation and it's really unique. It's a world first, as far as we know, in the industry. If we move on to the number 3 case study, the last one for this supplier, this is actually a really interesting and fun one, and it's a good example of what CDC can offer, not just a good disk with a low price, but they can actually vastly improve things at the process plant. So this project was a very rare solution, a very exotic one, but they do have the perfect fits on some occasions, even though they are not that common. So this was a double disk design. So you can see there are 2 disks and there are a 3-part holder. And between the disks, there's a gauge tap where you can measure, and you're obligated by law to measure the pressure between the 2 disks. And there's a really good reason for that, because if we could not measure the resistance of pressure between 2 disks, if we would start having small cracks, like the micro cracks, or it did not even fully open the disk, it just opened a little bit, or you just have a leakage because you have a bad mount, liquid or gas will start seeping in through the first disk and place itself between the 2. And then you actually need twice the pressure to open this solution compared to single disk. So that's why you need a gauge tap to measure it between the disks. So maybe 1 bar does not sound much, and then you need 2 bars to open it. But imagine if it's 30 bar, then you need 60 bars to open it, and then things can go wrong really quick. So what this customer is doing is that when he feels it is the pressure is too high, because of the disk has been fatigued, they will, between batches, remove the bottom disk and replace it. And then they will put it down, because this batch was very, very dangerous to come in contact with. And if the both disks were to open, if you were used to have something like a single disk solution, you have to shut down the entire plant, basically. So this was a really important position for them. So in the end, we hopefully saved a few lives, but also we saved the customers money. We did a new solution, which they were very happy with. And it also brings together all the stakeholders in this project. So CDC sat down together with the customer. They talked about the criteria, they talked about the identifications, they talked about what their values are, and then they worked up from that. We had the revision. It wasn't really a good one. It was old technology. The customer wasn't really happy, CDC wasn't really happy, and we at Thurne wasn't really happy. So we sat down, had another meeting, and came up with this solution. So this is much better technology, much newer technology, better for cycles. They will last a lot longer, what they currently have. And it's a reverse acting disk, so the cycles will last more than 3 times compared to the old one. But that's the case study of those 3. So again, why partner with CDC? Hopefully I've been able to show you why you should partner with CDC, with the case studies, and also what could be interesting in the HPX family, with the new standard in the industry. So case studies have shown that they got the technology advantage compared to their competitors. They are leading today in rupture disk manufacturing just because they got the technology. And when you look at the disk, it might not be that interesting. It looks like something that you could just put on and like, yeah, it will go at 3 bars or something like that. And yeah, if it goes a little bit over or under, sure. That might be true for some positions you need, but you still need reliability. You still need a good seal. You still need a good solution, basically, in order to grow your business over time. And with bursting disks, it has shown in the past, and it will show in the future also. We're very sure about that. If you choose a good disk, and if you have good ways of implementing it at your plant, your business will grow, and you are able to compete with others and your competitors way better than not having basically a good disk, a good implementation, good technology. If you have old technology, you need to have new technology to meet the new standards, the new regulations from governments, from companies in the industry. So technology is something that you should not be just overlooked. It's something that you really should prioritize when it comes to bursting disks. Also something with the HPX, it's not equal by any other. It's a unique product. No one else sells something like this, and with high cycles that can do 3 or even 5 million cycles, it will be a lot. And tomorrow on next session, they will go through how they do it and why they do it and why you should pick something like this to help your business. They operate in the sizes of 1 inch to 12 inch, and they also have sanitary ones for 1 to 4 inch. So they can also work, again, 90-95 operating ratios. They have burst ratings that is really huge. You can pick basically whatever you want. I've gone to over 100 bars on some customers. I've gone down to 0.3 bars on some others with the same design of the disk. So it's really wide, and it allows you to grow your inventory without unnecessary spare parts. And that's why a lot of customers are moving over to this new technology to compete with their competitors. They can do gas or liquid. They can do gas and liquid at the same time. And they do have a high performance, which makes them really good when it comes to economical configurations, not just something exotic like a double disk design, but just a simple 1 disk design will be able to save you money in the future. especially if you do cycles. And also, as previously mentioned, and hopefully I've showed you, that they have a service network that is really amazing. So when it comes to value, not just a cheap disk with a good price tag, but they do offer and help customers to replace their existing technologies with new ones to meet the new criteria. They will go out and visit customers. We will do a joint visit with customers just to find out how we can help them. Maybe we can't sometimes. Maybe we say, no, this is not a good solution. We can't help you, sorry. Or we have something really good for you. You should check this out. We can do a project with this and you can evaluate it, see how you feel. Or they just buy completely new stock. It's up to the customer really, and we will show that superior service, it will sell. You can't just today sell a disk. You need to sell something else as well with it. One of the few things I will bring up is that if you go to our website, there is a virtual engineer tab which will show a rupture disk sizing program. I use it sometimes with customers. Usually they have their own math, they have their own programs, they have their own programs to do this, but it could be fun to show. And also, if you're coming over as a first timer, or just if you want to talk, if you have some questions, it's a good start, it's a good baseline to show and add in your data. So if you open up this tab, you will come to this page. And here you can use different sizes of disks. You can choose different product family groups. So for example, this is a HPX I chose that will burst at 3 bar Gs and at 20 degrees Celsius. I've picked some fluids. I've picked some end pipes of how far the pipe will go, if you have a few bends and such. And at the bottom, you will see the relief flow. So you can count on a few things like the rupture disk resistance coefficient. That's the lowest on the market today. And you can work your way from there. And if you look at the bottom, you can generate a PDF. And that's probably the most important one when we will talk. It will export to something like this. So it will be a summary of all the data you have put in on the first page, on the right one. And then you will see the pipe length, the product family group, you will see the rupture disk coefficient, the burst pressure, and so on. And also on the second page, which is on the left, which is the limiting factors, we will show how we have calculated this. We have references to everything we do, and it's no rocket science. We show you the equation, we show you all the data, how we have worked it, how we have figured out how we got this far. And then you choose what you do with it, but it's a good start, nevertheless. Finally, I will show sort of a scary example, but it shows really what the right technology at the right place needs and why there are certain regulations that needs to be followed. So this was at a Danish brewery, and this is a article made from a Danish university. So you can read this later if you wish, but if you just Google it, but it is in Swedish, so maybe not everyone will appreciate it. But in summary, this huge silo, this huge tank flew 30 meters up in the air, and the pressure was just 0.1 overpressure. So 0.1 bar G overpressure for what was supposed to be, and it flew 30 meters up in the air. So this is a scary one, but it shows really how important it is, and it can't be overlooked, and why there really are regulations. Moving on to the next supplier, leaving CDC behind, moving on to Rodius, which is the next supplier, and Rodius will be talking on the third day, on Thursday. then you will talk to a person named Terry, and he will go through everything they do. And the scope of Rodius is really, really huge. So I will just briefly go through what they're doing, what they are, if you haven't heard of it. This will be your first time, but they are really huge in the wire mesh industry, and the applications for wire mesh is endlessly, really. So to begin, in the 20s, it's a German company, and they have been with Thurne for a very, very long time. This is one of the oldest suppliers we have worked with. So a lot of my colleagues that have been working here for 15, almost 20 years, they talk to it and describes it a little bit of like a sacred cow for us, because we have worked so long with them. They have really been able to deliver every time. So our contract just keeps getting better and better, and we start to expand more and more and more on it. So the cooperation between Thurne, the customer, and the supplier has really been close. So we have a lot of old customers that never gone back to anything else, that have switched to Rodius and kept it with Rodius or expanding at their sites. So a quick one, what is Rodius? What do they do? So they were founded in 1925 in Weisburg in Germany by a man named Max Rodius. So a similar story to Thurne, actually, that there was a man called just Thurne who founded it. Here was Max Rodius. But at the 60s, around when Thurne was founded, they introduced the wire mesh technology, because in the beginning, in the 20s, they were just doing metal sponges for cleaning. But they introduced wire mesh technology, knitted wire mesh technology, and from there just kept expanding, because they are really good at what they're doing. And today they're actually one of the global wide leaders, expanding all the way from the US to South Korea worldwide, just with wire mesh technology. And they supply everything you can think of between heaven and earth. They do major car manufacturers, for example, BMW, Audi, Mercedes-Benz, so German car brands, for example, but also Toyota and others. They supply different kitchens, they supply different railroads. They are really huge in what they are doing. So I won't go through deep on it, so I will just go with ease over it. But why they have grown, that they have done so much and so fast, is because they have a very high standard. So they push really for German technology and German quality, and they have really high certifications, like this ISO one, for example. And as well as CDC, who just can't offer a fast solution with just a cheap price tag, they also have R&D laboratories. So they will actually, just as CDC, they will go out to the customer, they will show their technology, they will measure, they will do all sorts kinds of experiments just to try to find different applications, to find different solutions, and so the customer actually understands it as well. So with the industry leading one, they have a good R&D laboratory, they have process engineers that do the math, that can just bring out a solution for you. Here, install this, you will have this value, we guarantee it, done deal. Or you can be a part of the process also and work together with Rodius and develop something that you really like. And I will show a case study of this later on. So quick, what they are doing, they do wire mesh technology, and you can implement it in so many ways. So knitted mesh in industrial textiles, on the left, for example, you can fit it on subway trains to minimize vandalism, theater seats, stuff like that. You can also have tubes with them, so you can do pipes, lines, copper cables to shield them from noise and radiation. Something that is more common for Thurne is the gas and liquid separators. So hopefully you recognize this, and this is something that sits on top on almost every column out there on the plants today, because almost everyone has a scrubber of some sort or absorber or some sort of liquid where they want to separate the gas and liquid from each other. So This is something that we sell a lot, put on top of every column, and it's one of the case studies I will show later. Same practice with the gas and liquid. They do liquid and liquid separation. So this is good for refineries, for example, we have here in Sweden and Norway. Also other chemical plants, fine chemical that supplies and really needs vast amount of volume, and it needs to go fast. Then you can't wait for the laws of gravity to do the work for you. You need to push it through some sort of filter, and they have the technology to do that. Mist eliminators, something that will be very common in cars, for example. It's the cartridges where you can slot in. Also in kitchen fans to separate oils so they don't run up in the fan, for example. And finally, something that is a little bit more custom is industrial solution, and it is mesh technology that has been wired and pressed to specific parts. And this is also very common in car manufacturing and also certain custom applications. So it could be applied for absorbing, heat isolation, everything you need on small parts on your plant, in your process, that could be very vital, that needs to function very well in order to get the whole system to work. And that is also something that Rodius will provide. So they will look from this little component and they will widen the spectrum for, okay, if we place this component here, how will the whole system work? How will the whole system act? Which is something that they are really good at. Case study. This is the first and only case study I will talk about with Rodius. So this was for a customer of ours. They are planning to make it more efficient and also a few new positions as well. We did some simulations. We did a few different modifications, examples to show if you place this, it will be better at this or worse for this. So the customer understands what they're buying and why they're buying it. So on the left and right, we have different sizes, we have different efficiencies, but it's for the same position. So you can see on the red, for example, where the velocity of the gas is really high and it doesn't really separate very well because they need to have a high flow in order to maintain a high cubic meter of hour in a standard flow volume, so to say. So if they were to up the size to 700 instead of 500, you will get a much better result, as you can see on the simulation. So you will have a much easier and wider spread of the gas. You will also have a more common and better flow of the liquids. And that's where you can see the efficiency is way higher compared to the first one. So this was together with the customer. They had a few sayings, Rodius had a few sayings. We talked a bit back and forth to meet the criteria we needed, to find new criteria along the way. And this had started to work on the customer, and they were really happy with the result. So that's why people usually choose Rodius, because they can also provide the economic benefits, but also the technical benefits. So they know what they're buying, the customer know what they're buying. So in a recap, what Thurne is, what Thurne does, the sales agency. We have talked about what we are, what we do, how we fit into the market. We have been talking about one of our suppliers, Continental Disc Corporation, CDC, about bursting discs they have. We have talked about the HBX product family. We have also talked about what type of value CDC can bring. They can vastly improve the technology, they can vastly improve the cost savings and the security and safety of not just the equipment, but also the people that work there. Because after all, it's safety of equipment, and if you have a safe equipment, you will save lives. So that is what we are doing. We have also talked about Rodius, also what we have achieved with Rodius, a little bit what they're doing, a little light touch. because it's so wide of the wire mesh technology they're doing. You can fit it anywhere you didn't think. You can see it everywhere where you don't believe it was. So if you start looking and have a good eye, you will find out that wire mesh technology is something that you will find everywhere. So these two suppliers, Continental Disk and Rodius, will have their own separate session. So tomorrow there will be Continental Disk Corporation having a session, and on Thursday, from 2 days, it will be Rhodius. We'll go through their own. And then you will have the opportunity to actually speak and ask questions directly to the supplier. If you have something, or if you have a quick question, or if you have some products you sell or something that you need help with, that will vastly improve by beginning a project or doing some pre-studies, or just having a easy way of telling what they are buying and what we need. So this will conclude the main presentation. I thank you so much for being here, those who are left.